Last episode, I said Superman only beats the Void by becoming an executioner for the second time in his life, and that the first time broke him. This is the version who never came back from that. Superman versus Injustice Superman. And this is the shortest power comparison this channel will ever run, because there isn't one. Same species, same sun, same physiology, same everything. Nothing on paper separates these two men. One of them made a different decision on one day, and the entire fight is that decision. So the usual question, who hits harder, has no answer here, and the interesting question is the one underneath it. Does being willing to kill actually make you better at winning? Post-crisis Superman. Main continuity, same as the last two episodes, which means All-Star is off the table, and so is every number people quote from it. You know the physicals. What matters today is the thing this channel keeps coming back to. Superman number 22, 1988. In a pocket universe, 3 Kryptonian criminals commit genocide. There is no prison that holds them and no authority to hand them to, and Superman strips their powers with gold kryptonite and executes them. Then he goes home and has a psychotic break, and exiles himself from Earth because he cannot be near people while carrying it. That is the man in this fight, not someone who has never crossed the line. Someone who crossed it once and could not live inside himself afterwards. And one more thing that never gets counted as a weakness, but is one. He holds back. Constantly. Every fight he has on Earth is fought at a fraction of what he can do, because there are people nearby. Today there aren't. That is the only mercy in this matchup, and it isn't for him. The regime Superman at his peak, before 5 years of war ground him down. Same origin, same Krypton, same everything, up to one afternoon. The Joker drugs him into killing Lois and their unborn child, and into detonating a nuclear weapon over Metropolis. He puts his fist through the Joker. And then he does not stop. He founds the One Earth regime and rules the planet by force, and here is where people get this character wrong. He is not a Superman who went insane. He is a Superman who reached a conclusion. In his own words, the only thing people understand is fear. The feats are not the interesting part, because they are the same feats. The interesting part is who he is willing to use them on. He murders Shazam. He murders Lex Luthor. Not enemies, his own people on his own side. And he has Luthor mass-produce a Kryptonian nanotech pill that raises human bone and tissue strength by several thousand%, turning ordinary soldiers into people who can stand next to Superman. Note who that pill was for. It was not for him. He already had Kryptonian physiology. It was for the troops. He wasn't building an edge. He was building a replacement for the people who used to stand beside him without being paid or drugged into it. Strength, identical. Speed, identical. Durability, identical. Energy projection, identical. I am not padding. This is the entire comparison. 2 men from the same planet under the same sun with the same body, and no meaningful gap anywhere on the sheet. Which means every single thing that decides this fight is above the neck. So the obvious read is that regime Superman wins, because he will kill and prime Superman will hesitate. And in a vacuum, that read is correct. But look at what that willingness actually bought him. He killed Shazam. He killed Luthor. He spent 5 years converting every relationship he had into a chain of command. And by the end of it, the strongest being on the planet was standing completely alone, fighting an insurgency made of people who used to be his friends. Willingness to kill is a devastating advantage against an enemy. Against yourself, it is not an advantage at all. It is the thing that decides how many people are in the room when the fight starts. That is the difference between these 2 men, and it does not show up anywhere on a stat card. Opening exchange is the most even fight either of them has ever had, and it is genuinely disturbing to watch, because neither one can hurt the other in any way that matters. Same durability, same output. They put each other through terrain for a while, and nothing changes. The turn comes when the regime Superman stops trying to win the exchange and starts trying to end the man. He goes for the throat. Literally, he does the thing his counterpart has done exactly once in his life and never recovered from. And he does it the way you do a thing you have done before, without the pause. And Prime Superman hesitates. Of course he does. That hesitation is not a flaw in this scene. It is the entire character, and it costs him. He is on the ground with a hand around his throat, and he is losing. And it is because he will not do the one thing that would stop it. In an empty field, with nobody watching and no history in the room, that is the end of it. The man who has already decided finishes the man who is still deciding. But that is not the fight that actually happened in the story. Here is the honest verdict, and it is split because pretending otherwise would be dishonest. Regime Superman wins the fight. One-on-one, empty ground, no allies, no history. The man who has spent 5 years killing Kryptonian tier opponents beats the man who will pause. This channel argued exactly that logic against Superman last episode, and I am not reversing it because the opponent changed. Prime Superman wins the war, and in canon he does. He beats the Regime Superman in the final battle, and the regime ends with its emperor in a cell under a red sun. But look at when that fight happens. It is the last scene of a war. The regime had already lost. Batman's insurgency had spent years stripping him of allies. He had personally murdered 2 of them. He was alone. Prime Superman arrived rested, with an insurgency and a Batman behind him. That is a story result, not a power feat. And the difference between those 2 things is most of what this channel is for. They are the same man with one decision changed. On the day, the one who crossed the line hits harder and finishes it. Over 5 years, the line is the only reason anyone was still standing next to him. Next episode, we leave this universe entirely and go somewhere the fights are older. Odin versus Zeus, the Marvel versions, not the myths, and most of you have the wrong one ranked higher.